If putting a man on trial after he died and being mocked in a one-sided trial wasn't enough, Pope Stephen VI cut off 3 of Formosus's fingers on his right hand that he used for blessings. Hey guys, welcome back to Historical Gaming. I've got a doozy for you guys today, that's for sure. Today we're talking about a trial from back in the Roman Empire days. I do want to put out a warning though for this story because it does deal with topics of death and corpses, so if that's not for you, that's okay. I've got other history videos you can watch and enjoy. I'll go ahead and pop a card up in the corner of the screen with a link to my history playlist, and I'll also go ahead and link it down below in the description for you. Now that we've got that out of the way, go ahead, grab a cup of coffee, a controller, your floofy companion, and let's get started with the Cadaver Synod. Okay, like I said, today we're talking about the Cadaver Synod, the Cadaver Trial, Trial of the Dead, or if you're a fan of Latin, Synodus Horrenda. That's a lot of names for one event. So what is this trial that has so many names? Well, to put it as plainly as I can, it is essentially a pope who died that was eventually dug up several months later to be placed on trial. Yeah, you heard me correctly. They ended up tying his body to the papal throne and went through an entire trial posthumously, meaning he was already deceased. The question I am sure you're asking is, the historian, why in the world would anyone do that? Well, don't worry my fellow nerds, we'll get to that in due time. But first, to tell the story of how we got to putting a dead pope on trial, we need to go further back in time a bit. To lay a quick background, 9th century Europe was a bit of a mess, with a lot of social and political upheaval. Western Europe was divided into small fiefdoms. The rulers of these fiefdoms all wanted to be named the Bishop of Rome, or better known as the Pope. But it wasn't as easy of a feat. To become Pope, you needed some leverage from the city's secular leaders. Formosus, our protagonist in this story, was the Cardinal Bishop of Porto during the reign of Nicholas I. Porto is a suburb of Rome. Formosus was a super popular bishop and even helped spread the word of God to the Bulgarian kingdom. Formosus was a shoo-in for the Pope after serving under Pope Adrian II and Pope John VIII. But luck wouldn't be on our friend's side. Pope John VIII, in an unfortunate turn of events, turned on Formosus and accused him of violating a certain law. This law forbade the act of blatantly aspiring to the papacy, aka, you couldn't aspire to be the Pope one day as your career goal. I think John VIII was a little afraid that Formosus was going to take his spot as Pope, so he excommunicated him. Luckily though, Pope Marinus I absolved Formosus and he was able to return. A couple popes come and go, and finally, Formosus gets his chance and he is elected Pope Formosus on October 6, 891. Now let's get into the juicy bit. How did we go from a guy vying for the spot as Pope to being dug up and put on trial after he died? Well, Pope Formosus seemed to have been a popular pope according to my research, but he did make one grave mistake. He made an enemy. I know, it's shocking. It's always that one powerful person that's gotta ruin it for everyone, but I digress. Who is the powerful enemy? Guy III of Spoleto, the Holy Roman Emperor who had a major distrust of Pope Formosus. Now, how do you get on the Holy Roman Emperor's bad side? Well, not naming the Emperor's son as a co-emperor is a start. Guy wanted his son to be co-emperor to exert power politically over the Pope, which is quite a big thing at this time. Popes at this time had the power to crown the Holy Roman Emperor, which often meant that each new pope was being entered into a high-stakes game of politics with their life often on the line. Formosus recognized what was going on and actually plotted to have the Spoleto family overthrown. I'm sure you'll be shocked to learn that the Spoleto family didn't take well to this and vowed to have their revenge. But they wouldn't get their chance because Pope Formosus ultimately died from a stroke in April of 896, just 5 years after becoming pope. Now we're entering the stranger portion of the story, and the portion I'm sure you've been waiting for, the trial. Several months after Formosus' death, his body was exhumed, or dug up, and was put in his papal robes. He was then taken inside the Archbasilica of St. John in Lateran and tied to the papal throne. To speak for the deceased pope, a deacon was assigned to be his voice. What were the charges against the dead pope? According to sources, they include being unworthy to be pope, violation of canon law, and perjury, and serving as a bishop while technically a layman. Pope Stephen VI, the pope that took over after Formosus passed, was acting as the judge, jury, and executioner in this scenario. AKA, he was the one that was conducting the trial all by himself. Because, you know, that sounds fair. It is stated that Pope Stephen VI shouted at the deceased Formosus, slinging outrageous insults and mocking Formosus for coveting the papacy. Although Pope Formosus did stay calm and silent during the whole ordeal, as one would expect since he was deceased. The deacon also remained silent, most likely afraid to come to the former pope's defense. This one-man charade was all performed in front of the clergy, who were all horrified. Why was there a lot of theatrics? Largely for the Spoleto family's enjoyment, I think anyway. It's even said that by divine intervention an earthquake hit during the trial, shaking the building enough to cause damage. But the trial continued. No surprise, Formosus was found guilty at this trial. I know, shocker. Once the verdict was read, Formosus was stripped of his papal garb and placed in the clothes of a pauper, or poor man. If putting a man on trial after he died and being mocked in a one-sided trial wasn't enough, Pope Stephen VI cut off 3 of Formosus' fingers on his right hand that he used for blessings. He also invalidated Formosus' acts and ordinations as pope, and then finally had him thrown in the Tiber River. Throwing an enemy in the Tiber River was not a new phenomenon. Actually, for centuries, ancient Romans disposed of their criminals in the Tiber River. His body was eventually found by a fisherman, though, and returned to St. Peter's Basilica. According to Lute Prawn of Cremona, a contemporary chronicler, quote, "When he was afterwards found by fishermen and carried to the church of the blessed Prince of the Apostles, certain images of the saints with veneration saluted him, placed in his coffin. For this I have very often heard from most religious men of the city of Rome," unquote. This was a shocking event that shook the Catholic Church to its core. This was not an act of piety, but an act of politics. This did not go over well for Stephen, and he was deposed, thrown in prison, and was eventually strangled in his cell. Eventually, several popes later basically canceled out the Cadaver Synod and excommunicated 7 cardinals that were on Stephen's side during the whole ordeal. They then made sure that no pope can ever be tried post-mortem, meaning no more popes can be dug up and tried after they have died. The main question I'm sure you're asking, but why was Stephen VI so petty that he dug up Formosus and put his deceased body on trial? Well, it's hard to say the exact reason. Some believe it was politically based. Some think it was to hide his own crime, which was that Formosus had made Stephen a bishop, and then he was also named the Bishop of Rome when he became pope, making him a bishop of 2 places, which was a big no-no. And then there's a not-so-popular reason, which is Stephen was of unsound mind. I personally lean more towards the first 2, maybe even a combo of the 2. Well, that's it for our history lesson today. What'd you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I know the story is a lot more nuanced than what I shared today, so if you have some more information or background that you want to add, feel free to drop it in the comments as well. And before you go, make sure to hit that like button, double check that you're subscribed, and make sure you ring that notification bell so you know when I post my next video. And go ahead and share this with a friend. You know they'd enjoy it. Also, stay tuned for the walkthrough here in just a minute. And until next time, I hope you have a historic day. Bye!